Hey, what's going on everyone? West Productions 100 here, bringing you another video. Let's talk about Lady Bird, the movie that came out recently, a couple months ago. It's gotten very high praise, a lot of nominations for a lot of various awards, including Best Director and Best Picture at the Oscars, and we're just going to talk about it. Just talk about my opinion and stuff like that. So, starters. Good things. The acting is, without a doubt, the strongest high point of this movie. The main actor, who plays a younger teenage girl, and the supporting actress, her mother. These two actors have very great chemistry together on screen. In addition to that, the main actor herself also has just very good acting throughout this movie. Her acting is just very good throughout this movie, really. And so, without a doubt, I would say the acting is the strongest highlight of this movie. I thought the comedy was okay, it was alright. Other people in the theater that I was watching the movie with seemed to be laughing more than me. So, there were people out there who definitely found this movie funnier than I did. That being said, though, I did find some funny moments with this movie. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I do remember enjoying myself at times while watching the movie. So, that would be some of the stronger highlights. I also like the subplot. This is getting into some spoilers right here, so I'm going to put a spoiler warning at the beginning. But anyway, some of the subplots were interesting, like her first date, how minor plot twist, he turns out to be gay, or maybe bisexual, but he's gay to a certain extent. And it's interesting because when she first goes to his house to meet like the parents and the grandparents and stuff like that, they don't tell you directly like what his family's background is, but you can tell just by like looking at the imagery. Like you see an illustration of Ronald Reagan, you see a couple other things to indicate this is more of a conservative family. Like they have the certain tropes / stereotypes or generalizations that you would accompany or portray a conservative type family to have, such as that Ronald Reagan illustration I mentioned earlier. So it was interesting to see that he turns out later to be gay or bi, and so he comes crying to her, and she promises not to tell, which doesn't surprise me. Her character is more left-leaning in political matters. You can see that throughout the movie. She makes commentary or jokes about right-leaning people and like Republican people and figures like that. So her politics is definitely leaning towards the left, so she can definitely show some sympathy towards him, and like despite the fact that she was just kind of like his cover or something like that. I thought it was interesting how she lied to the other girl about where she actually lived. I mean, she clearly didn't care when she found... I mean, she cared that she lied, but after that part got over, like, it's like, okay, well, just don't do it again, basically. I thought it was kind of interesting, like, how that whole thing played out. The theater subplot, I'm kind of... That really wasn't... There wasn't really a lot of focus on that either. It seemed like she was into it at one point, and then she's maybe not as much into it at another point. Without a doubt, though, the drama of just, like, the coming-of-age story... There's a lot of drama in that, because this is a coming-of-age movie, and seeing her going through high school and trying to apply for college, and like, do you have the money to apply for college? Do you have the scholarships, the grants, the loans, and stuff like that? Wanting to go to New York City, and like all that good stuff. There's definitely some drama in that, and some comedy relief moments. But that all being said, though, I didn't find this movie to be fantastic or phenomenal or, oh my god, this is such a great movie. I found it to be, it was alright. It was good. Compared to some other people, though, who, like, seem to love this movie to death. Like, I honestly just don't feel that same attachment to that movie. So, I mean, more power to them for feeling that way, but I just don't feel that way about this movie. So let's talk about some of the issues I had with this movie. I felt the pacing at times was really slow. It's just like, sometimes I just felt like, okay, like, what's happening, what are we going to do here? the ending to me should have been cut, and it should have been reshot or re-edited or something like that. Like that whole sequence, like 7-minute sequence or 7 to 10 minute sequence of her being in New York City, like it just felt useless. It's like you know, at that point it's like, okay, we get it, we know she's going to New York City. Like, why are you showing us this? Like, oh, she goes to a party and she gets wasted and she has to end up in the hospital, and like, okay, well, what was the? Maybe other people understood what the point of that was, but I was having a hard time figuring that out. And maybe if I was more into the movie, I would have, you know, I don't know. Like, it just didn't really sit with me well, that ending. And then she's on the phone with her. She is on the phone. Her mother's in pickup, so she leaves a voice message in front of a museum, you know, and then just cuts to black, and it's just like, okay. My friend that I went to the film with told me that the reason that it ends in New York City is because the film director loves New York City, and in every one of her other films that she's done, she has put New York City involved in some way or form. And in that case, you know, why not just set the story in a different place then? Why is it in Central California? Why is it not in like upstate New York or in the suburbs of New York City? Like, it could be this same story could have taken place in Yonkers or a richer suburb either north of New York or on Long Island. So it's, you know, or it could take place further north of the city itself, or, you know, it could have taken place in New Jersey, it could have taken place in southeast Pennsylvania. Like, there's a ton of places where this movie could have taken place, and that could have been more convenient to the budget. I really don't understand what the whole reasoning behind shooting the majority of this movie in California was, to then have the last bit, you know, in New York. You know, if this movie was shot in New York, then there could have been scenes throughout the movie where the main character goes with her friends into the city using like public transportation, and, you know, showing her love for the city with, like, you know, beautiful B-roll. And, you know, I feel like if that was the case, we would have felt a more deeper connection to New York City and to her passion for it. The thing about her being in California is that because she's in California for the majority of the movie, for me personally, I didn't really feel much of an attachment or sympathy towards New York City. I felt more of a sympathy or attachment for her hometown in California, because I was already used to it. I was already used to seeing the environment there and seeing the different sections of the city that she was living in, the wealthier area, the working class area. So for then her to just zip on into New York City, I don't know. I'm not saying it was terrible. It was just okay. It was just like, I just felt like it could have been done better differently. Like I said, I felt like there's other movies that came out in 2017 that could have gotten the Best Picture nomination over Lady Bird, because, you know, like I said earlier, this acting was the strongest point of this movie. There's the scene where there's a part where her mom stops talking to her daughter, and it gets to the point where she just doesn't communicate with her at all, and her daughter is like pleading with her, begging her to say something to her, and she just won't say a thing. And that was tense. That was dramatic. You know, it felt emotional. It felt so sad. And, you know, the part with her leaving the airport, and like then all those the mother's emotions come, you know, to light, because she never even talked to her daughter when she left the airport. She just waited till she was gone, and then, you know, started crying and stuff like that. You know, that was without a doubt the tensest moment of the film, and that was probably the climax of the film right there. But even before, you know, the whole mother-daughter relationship throughout the movie is pretty good. Like I said, the acting is the best part of this movie. The other parts, like the ending, the pacing, also the cliches. Let's talk about this for a moment here. So this is a coming-of-age story, and we've seen these types of stories before. And I feel like I've seen there's a bunch of cliches or tropes, like high school style tropes or cliches, and I feel like I've seen them before and time again. There are certain characters who are kind of like one-dimensional, or they kind of like fit a certain you know, generalization, and that's not entirely a bad thing. It's just like sometimes when something's done too much, it kind of gets old after a while, and that's the issue I think with Lady Bird here. Isn't that it wasn't offensive or not entirely inaccurate, but that it's been done so much that it kind of just feels like, okay, like Like, okay, maybe have some different characters next time. Maybe have like a preppy kid who's into non-stereotypical preppy things. Have the nerdish type kid or emo type kid who is into other things that are not associated with their stereotype. You know, a change of things, a change of pace, a change of attributes to a character. So overall, like I said, I would say The Lady Bird is an alright movie. It's a good movie. It's not a terrible or great movie. I don't see why other people see it such a great film. But, you know, to each their own. Obviously, the Academy loves this movie to a certain extent. That's why it's nominated for all these awards. Certain other groups, you know, they also put nominations for this award in their awards categories, in their award ceremonies. I wasn't surprised that the Screen Actors Guild nominated the supporting actor of the mother and the main actor in their categories for supporting actress and lead actress role, because, you know, to me, again, that was the strongest suits of those movies. I was actually kind of disappointed the mother didn't win the nomination at the Screen Actors Guild Award. So that concludes this video. Thank you for watching. I'll probably do more. I might do more videos on Lady Bird in the future, especially if this, you know, video gets a lot of comments, responding to the comments. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about the Oscars in terms of Lady Bird. I actually got a video on the Oscars coming, just listing out the nominations and stuff like that. You're also welcome to check out my other YouTube channel, Twilight City Studios. I'll have some more short films up on there, other types of videos like music videos. I just started my own news segment on there called TCS News, which is just short for Twilight City Studios News. So I appreciate if you all check that out, and thank you and have a wonderful day.